Morgan Park's back. Rainbow Six Extraction. Hell of a name.
Extraction,
Yeah.
not quarantine, not parasite.
Yeah.
Extraction.
Maybe not the best name for this really interesting spin-off of literal Siege. It's the Siege design and
Yeah, it's not.
framework.
It's not really a. It's not a Rainbow Six game based on Vegas or the
No.
originals at all. This is quite literally Rainbow Six Siege operators, attackers, defenders transplanted into a different game. Uh, totally based on a limited time mode that was introduced to Siege back in 2018 for like 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then never came back.
Now it's here after what, like a year plus of sort of delays due to COVID and whatever, like internal Ubisoft tinkerings and issues or whatever. But
And
it's
they announced it way back in 2019
yeah.
E3. It was 2 years ago now,
Oh my god.
and we literally haven't seen it for real since then.
But hey, we got to play what 2-3 hours of it just a couple days ago, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Morgan, why don't you like give us like the what it is, like break it down for us, because even after playing it, I'm not even sure I understand what it is.
Yeah, it's a PvE co-op shooter like the Outbreak event from 2018 I mentioned. It is 3 players. That game at the time, that mode at the time, was giving people sort of Left 4 Dead 3 vibes of, but definitely with a siege twist, and they're trying to build off of that. Basically, 3 players go into the set of maps. Each like full mission is actually 3 different zones that they travel between with these airlock sort of interludes, and each zone has one main mission that's either like, we did a variety of stuff. We had to rescue an operator, fled from a bunch of gunk thing by like shooting certain nodes at the right time. It was weird, and we had to deactivate alien zombie nests. These, we had to scan them, find them, and stab them by holding F. And we also had to like carry this foam injector into this nasty looking central node thing, which is basically like a carry and defend type thing. There's a lot. They sort of did a brief rundown of a lot of mission types. There were maybe 9 to 12
Yeah.
that can happen, that can be procced as you enter the mission. So there's a certain amount of procedural generation going on. They mentioned that the missions are randomized, which ones you get, where they are. So if you might be at the museum map, but the same mission might be all the way across the map this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ordering of the missions, the actual zones are set layouts, but which one's first and which one's last will be switched around.
Yeah.
And then there's like other modifiers they mentioned, but core gameplay wise, it feels like Siege. It was a little tough to parse because we were using a cloud gaming tool to actually play it remotely. So we were experiencing some natural lag as a result, but roughly the game feels like Siege. It is built on the exact same framework. The linging feels the same, aiming feels the same, shooting, recoil, all that is the same. The main difference is that you're instead of like hunting down these other players, precise shooters, and sort of having these intense corner duels and that kind of thing, peeking each other. This seems a lot chiller, like a lot more relaxed. At least most of the time, like when shit has not hit the fan, it actually seems kind of relaxed.
It can escalate pretty quickly, as we found out.
Yeah, that's an important thing. It's not Left 4 Dead in the way that I would find useful to describe it, because you are not running and gunning at a consistent pace to keep up with a horde that's kind of always coming out of the woodworks.
Mm-hmm.
The zombies are mostly meandering. They if you sneak up on them, they'll just be standing still, and you can just put a suppressor on your gun before you enter the map and then pop them silently. So in that case, it's way more meandering. It's way more, when I interviewed a developer, they wouldn't say that like it's a stealth oriented game, because they want you to play it however you want.
Hmm.
but it's kind of a stealth oriented game.
Yeah.
There will be a moment where you have to hunt her down and invite hordes to come at you, sort of like in Left 4 Dead when you have to, you know,
Yes.
repair a car or gas it up or something. But in between, all those in between moments were like we're just wandering around looking for extra health or gadgets and stuff, and occasionally running into the special parasite infected types. What do they call them? Archaeans.
Archaeans, yeah. There's the enemy variety is really interesting, but yeah. Otherwise, it was like you said. There's some amount of efficiency planning you can take there to really like prepare for the next objective. Enemies will respawn consistently through these what are they called, like nodes, these fleshy nodes you'll see around the map,
Yeah,
and
little nests.
nests, yeah, and you can just pop those pretty easily to basically make the entire field 100% safe, assuming you've eliminated all the enemies. And some of them are pretty stealthy, like literal just blisters that crawl along the ceiling
Yeah,
and
there's some pretty
floor.
sneaky. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sneaky threats. So yeah, I do like that aspect of it. That
Mhm.
even though it doesn't feel like a rush towards an objective at all times, you still are getting the constant, like more, I guess, calmer influx of special infected, like
Mhm.
meandering about, and unlike Left 4 Dead, where it just seems like you see them very clearly and you have to deal with them immediately. Like this game, maybe to its benefit, um, it seemed like they were sneaking up on us constantly because they were just sort of
Yeah.
subtly meandering down a hallway, and then I was just looking at a box, seeing if I can pick it up, and then suddenly, yeah, you mentioned those blisters, which are just these really tiny little subtle fleshy things that just like came from the ceiling and will drop on you.
I think they
And
multiply or something. Like, yeah,
you
there's some
you
really
shoot it and it
alien
multiplies. Yeah,
behaviors. I really like the design of them, even if just because when I think of like zombie horde alien shooter, I think of like, and that this game definitely has some like archetypal, like, humanoid shaped things, but it also has some really weird like XCOM style, just like alien, unknowable, odd entities. And that's cool. I don't know. It's not like when I think of Ubisoft, I think of playing it pretty safe in terms of like artistic design and creative choices in that way. And that feels like, you can't put like a blister on the box art and say that's cool.
yeah, right.
So I respect that.
Yeah, and they actually, the which types of special infected parasites, whatever they call them,
Mhm.
you'll see from mission to mission is, I think, also part of the procedural generation.
Yes. Yes.
But they did break down what I assume is a complete list of the types, and I probably counted 9 or 12 as well, like just
That's a
just
lot.
enemy types, between, types that are recognizable in other games that will charge you or send a little AOE wave of damage at you. And yeah, like I guess also worth mentioning is that um, it's a really cool effect to watch, but also gameplay wise, there's just this goo, this
Yeah.
like parasite black goo that's textured
I love
that
it.
um, you'll find just covering entire rooms. It'll cover every inch of what's around it, and you're slowed in it. You will move very slowly through it, and it wasn't until like halfway through the demo, like you're encouraged to take down these nests with a melee attack because that'll clear the goo around it
Mhm.
and make it safer to fight in it. But we didn't notice until halfway through the demo that you can just shoot the goo, and like every shot will just like
Mhm.
create a little burst of safe area like every time. So you can waste a lot of ammo, or wisely use a lot of ammo to just clear a path, draw a path out of the goo, and maybe use that to plan like your route for when you have to
Yes.
transfer one of those goo canisters. But
It's really satisfying. It's like the anti Splatoon, as we were saying in chat. It's really it sounds odd, but and it kind of runs counter. This is sort of like one of the greater problems I think I have, or miss. I don't know how to articulate my problems with this game yet, but um, it's weird to play Siege kind of like constantly shooting at the ground and all around you, not playing too stealthily, just to like make the most efficient path through this. There's like you said, it's pretty slow, but there's like almost no downtime in that regard. And when I think of Siege, and when I think of like, because you still have, as far as I know, a lot of the same operators as you have in Siege, a lot of the same names, and probably the same abilities suited and changed a bit to fit this game. But uh, there, I played Sledge a couple times, and I couldn't find many opportunities to either reinforce or break down walls, even though all the ballistics and destruction is sort of there as well. Maybe we just
No,
didn't see the right enemy types for that, or
yeah,
objectives, but I don't know.
plenty of caveats. We saw one map type.
Yeah,
That we saw the few configurations of. We didn't see every single enemy, but it's true that like even less than that outbreak event, it
yeah.
feels like the unique siege bits of the game are not a focus. They seem almost like they're just there because the mechanics are already there. Like for instance, every gun is equipped with a UV flashlight, and I actually really like this mechanic because you can walk up to a wall, and if there's enemies on the other side of a destructible wall, it'll literally show you like their weak spots, like silhouettes through it. It's pretty cool effect. You can use them to wall bang them just like you would in Siege by like scanning someone. But that's like the only real moment that like I used Siege's like very still very impressive and transformative like destruction system. All the other time, like you can take impact grenades, something that's
Mhm.
in Siege. You can bring that here and use it to open holes in walls. But it's true that like we just didn't see like nothing was really challenging us enough that it would make sense to make a shorter path through a hallway or something. Or suddenly, like if anything, I would just use an impact grenade to clear out some goo
Yeah.
on the floor. Um, and yeah, the same with Siege operators. There's 9 operators in there that we saw. It's not every operator that'll be in the game at launch, and probably not in the future as well. They'll probably add more. Um, and yeah, some operators have their gadgets have like transferred 1-to-1. Sledge just still uses his hammer. It still makes big holes in wall. That's cool. I bet you can use it to kill an enemy. I don't know why you would, unless it's like more damage against certain enemies. That'd be
Hmm.
cool. Um, but other operators, you got Doc in there. He's got his
Hmm.
stim pistol. It still feels and works the same, except that when you use it to heal someone, it doesn't do nearly as much
Yeah.
health as it does in the normal game. You usually get like
Hmm.
30 health out of it. Here, I was popping it. I was getting like 10 health back at a time, and it's decaying health like you'd expect in Left 4 Dead if you use pills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like you can still use it to revive someone from a distance, which is probably even more useful in extraction than it would be in normal siege. So that's I guess his main use. But that's an example of like I don't know if I'd ever take Doc because it's just like this little dinky heal, and I'd rather just go and find a health pack somewhere
Yeah.
in extraction. And then there's some operators that they've had to change completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vigil's one of the 9 that we saw. His ability in Siege is he presses a button and suddenly he's invisible on cameras. That's all that happens, which is very useful in that game. And extraction would be pointless, obviously. So here he presses a button and you still get that same effect, the same sound effect, but he just becomes invisible to zombies, I guess, invisible to enemies. It's kind of it wasn't really communicated well that it was working, but I guess it was
Hmm.
that they wouldn't notice you, uh,
Interesting.
which is just like, but yeah, like it's true. Like every operator that I've played, their abilities seemed really trivial. Like it seemed
Yeah.
super. Like it didn't really add much.
One that was kind of useful was Lion, just to you could ping real quick and you could see pretty much every enemy. I mean, the maps aren't huge, but every enemy throughout the next in the room you're in and beyond, and kind of just have a sense of what types are out there and where they're at and where to avoid. That was like really useful, but like once or twice maybe,
Yeah,
just as like,
and that makes even more sense. Just Lion
yeah,
was introduced to Siege during that outbreak event.
exactly.
He came at the same time, and he was introduced because he was useful in that outbreak event to spot zombies. Um, so yeah, like that's I would definitely I think Lion's a good pick. There's just like entire picks on there that I don't know why anybody would pick them against other ones. Like it just
Yeah,
seems
I
I
think
guess imbalanced or one sided in that way out of the gate. but we'll see.
Yeah, and again, I feel like so much of this game is going to make sense in articulate in the long term because again, we got a tiny slice of like how it can mix and match all these different variables. And I think in the long term, especially like this is the stuff that surprised and interested me. And I don't know, it sounds like it kind of worries you a bit more than me. It's got like how else to describe it, but a sort of like a meta layer, um, like an XCOM light, at least in terms of how you manage your soldiers. If you, for example, die in a match, if you are totally downed, that operator is then no longer available to play until you perform a rescue mission in in the next match or any other match after that. Like you will get an opportunity to rescue. We rescued Sledge in this really odd. Honestly, I didn't like it very much. They're sucked in by this arcane tree, and you need to someone pulls on them while these like arms and branches of the tree shoot little nodes toward the center of the tree, and you have to like shoot the nodes before they. Yeah, it's like this little tug of war.
Tug of war, and it wasn't well communicated. I think we tried to sort of figure it on the fly, like when we were allowed to shoot the nodes that would free him or make us win the tug of war thing. It was awkward for sure. I did get some clarification from developer that like when you do one of those rescue operations, they made it sound like no matter who it is that you're technically rescuing, like it'll be could be like a different person for everybody. So like if it's if your Finca is MIA but my doc is MIA, that it'll rescue different people for who you have missing. But yes, it's weird. It's a weird system because for that type of game. To me, just because like like say Lion is like my favorite person to play because he has a very useful ability. It just seems I don't know how it's supposed to be fun or interesting that I just can't play him anymore because I died as him for a while. But even worse, actually, you don't have to die as them. You don't have to lose them to make them unplayable. We finished our first mission, our first run through of the same mission I did as Doc, and then in our second playthrough, I noticed that because I finished the game with low health, Doc was still low health, and he was going to like have to heal over time, like you mentioned, like XCOM. And that just felt lame. Like I don't know, the XCOM is like built around. XCOM's built around like having a stable barracks of soldiers around, but like I want to play Doc. There's no other. I can't bring in my other Doc. Like I, it's just weird that I just have to arbitrarily wait to play him again.
It would
because it's not informing this larger. As far as we know, it's not informing this larger meta game where like there's consequences to it. The only consequence is I don't get to play my favorite person. Like it's
if there was more to creating your stable of soldiers beyond like what is the already extant like siege loadout system, like if you were actually in there naming and sort of stacking your barracks with X amount of healers and X amount of specialists in this way, that'd be kind of interesting. But it feels at odds with the property, the brand, and the characters at this point. I don't think Ubisoft would want to sort of homogenize the stuff they've built in that way. But I don't know. Maybe there is more to that. Maybe there is more that we're not seeing in terms of the progression. I like it in theory a little bit, if only because it informs. It gives a little the average match maybe a little more tension, maybe not in a fun way, but I do like layering in like, okay, I need to actually think about how much health I have right now, and it's less about like losing out on this match than it is about like losing my favorite character for a match or two in the long term.
I just always put it this way: like if the same mechanic was in Siege, it would be more interesting. Like if I died as Doc, and they actually did this as a limited time mode one time, as an arcade mode, where if I play Doc one round and I die, then he's locked out for the rest of the game.
That's not kind of interesting, yeah. Shit.
Like, but here, unless there's like unless there's some thread connecting the missions or or like if the operators actually played a larger role in whether or not we can do a mission, that'd be
Yeah,
interesting. Like if Doc just had this amazing counter to one of the bosses, uh, that made him like crucial for this upcoming mission, and then I would think twice about bringing him in on the previous one or something, or try to keep him
sure.
especially healthy for the end of it.
Mm,
But yeah, it just seemed arbitrary, and that kind of uh, that but the fact that it's arbitrary just makes it more seem more annoying than interesting because it just starts locking you out of people that you just want to play
sure.
for without a clear good reason, which might exist. There's a lot they wouldn't say about progression. There's a lot
Yeah.
they progression was a dirty word in the interviews. They were not ready to talk about anything like it.
All right.
And so you know, it could mean that like the launch version of Siege, you're gonna have to do a lot of grinding to unlock more operators.
Mm,
Um, so they might, cynically, they might want you to have a few operators locked out, so that you're maybe encouraged to buy one that you don't have, or
mm,
something. Uh,
mm. Okay.
you know, lots of possibilities.
Yeah, we'll see. Either way, again, don't know how to feel about it in the end. I had fun. I had fun doing like, it was like, fit like a glove. Like it was nice popping into a very familiar framework and control scheme and ballistics model and being like, all right, let's do something new with this. This is more of a hangout sesh. Because Siege can get pretty intense, it can get pretty, it can be hard to like chill and have fun in there if you're a particularly competitive person. This seems like it allows for a little bit more just of a hangout vibe. And
Yeah.
um, I don't know how it's
Well,
all going to come together. I'm really curious.
yeah. Thankfully, it being a spinoff of Siege, even though we had some annoying lag, like I know how that game feels,
Mm,
and going into Extraction, like just because it plays like Siege, it'll already be like one of the best feeling
yeah.
PVE zombie shooters like ever made because the Siege's shooting is really good.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and yes, like there's just too many blanks that can either come in good or bad that will like really make or break if it's like a worthwhile thing to stick with friends with for a while. Like, are there enough missions that it doesn't get boring? Like, are there enough? Like, we didn't get to mess with things called parasite modifiers that sound
Hmm.
like they could maybe I think of Destiny Nightfall weekly missions
Yeah.
that enact these like pretty severe difficult like extra challenges on things. So if that's a similar system, that'd be neat. Like I don't know, any PvE game really struggles to also be classified as a service game for me, or like something
Mm,
that you actually want to stick with, because at the end of the day, you are repeating the same missions over and over
yeah.
with details changed. And to me, that only works if there's progression, and if it only works if there's a lot of it. So those are things that they are not ready to talk about.
No, we'll find out soon enough. Did we get a release date out of this or a release window? I can't remember. No,
No,
still
nothing like that. But
odd.
hopefully this year.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it wasn't. But either way, I think it's. I'm still looking forward to it, and especially looking forward to playing it with you guys. I think it'll be a good time. We had some fun, um, getting on each other's butts,
Yeah,
and it's good banter generator. I think at the
yeah.
very least. So
If at the end of the day we're saying that it's too short to be worth it, like at least it'll be a game you can sign up for the Ubisoft Plus thing for a month
yeah.
and get what you need out of it. So I
Uh,
want to play more. It feels good.
well, go to pcgamer.com. Morgan's got, by the time this shows up on the website, Morgan will also have a bunch of coverage on there, I'm sure. Some kind of preview, and I'm sure we'll have an EWK. We'll have all the things you need to know as much as you can about this game. And yeah, we'll be keeping our eye on it for the next couple months and hopefully playing it soon. Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you, Jane.